Hello. Welcome to another episode of Table for Us. This is actually our final episode of 2025. And in this episode, we are going to be diving into settling. But before we do that, as always, if you have been following me, I am Nicole, your host. I always like to give all praise and glory to God because without Him, absolutely nothing that I do would be possible. Okay. So always like to do that. I know that I have some people who made some comments about having a personal relationship with God and them not being able to see him. So how can you have a personal relationship? That is a whole nother episode that I will dive into in the new year. But first, no matter what, I got to give all praise and glory to him, as well as honor and respect. Secondly, if you are someone who has been thinking about starting your own podcast, right? There's a few people that have reached out to me, asked me some questions about podcasts and how I got started and why I got started. And I actually talk about that in, I want to say episode 2. I talked about getting into podcasts, and if I really didn't go into depth about it, but that is also another episode that I will cover. But if you are interested in starting your own podcast, go ahead and check the links below. I do share information with the podcast platform that I host my podcast on, which is called Podbean. So I'll go ahead and leave their link below if you are interested in getting started with your own podcast. Also use Descript to do my editing and so forth, and I'll also leave their information and link below as well. So let's go ahead and get into this episode. So today we are going to be closing out the year about settling and how we need to stop settling. One thing that I have noticed, and just again, anybody who's watching these episodes and so forth, I get comments on TikTok as well as on YouTube, and some of the comments are a little negative, and I expect that, but keep in mind that anything that I am talking about from my own experience. So please be respectful, and please, this is a judge-free zone here, okay? So I'm always shedding light on my own personal experiences. Now, settling. In my life, I have settled for a lot of things. And one thing that I have noticed is that the people around me in my community, particularly people of color, Black people being specific, that we tend to settle for a lot of things. And that can be settling in a job. That could be settling in a relationship. That can be settling in an environment. Okay. That can be settling with anything, right? We get very comfortable or we get afraid. So we stay in things longer than we should stay in it. And there was an episode where I was talking about specifically about relationships, but this is just in life in general. And I think a lot of it stems back to literally the slavery days. I am not a big history person as far as when it comes to our history and all of the knowledge that's in there. But from what I have retained is that we used to be punished whenever we tried to go for more than what we were being given. So we were basically given the scraps, the last of everything. And when we tried to obtain more than that, then we were punished for that. And we were always put in our place. Basically, this is where you belong. Stop thinking you belong somewhere else. Stop trying to get more knowledge. Stop trying to learn how to read. Stop trying to do anything other than what we are telling you. So I think that has conditioned us over centuries to basically feel like, okay, we have to take whatever it is that we're given. And we don't. Okay. Now, I will say this, it's not going to be easy to obtain whatever it is that you want to obtain. You will have to put in the work. You will have to stay consistent with whatever it is that you are trying to obtain. But at the same time, don't settle. Okay. For me, it took me, and my mindset that I have now didn't just happen overnight. It took me going through some things, removing the blinders that I had on, right? Where I was basically seeing things the way I wanted to see them instead of seeing them the way that they actually are, and realizing that person inside of me who wanted more needs to actually come out. Now, I don't know who I'm talking to, but I feel like God gave me this message to close out this year that He wants you to know that you need to stop settling. Okay. Whatever that is, you know what it is, He know what it is, but stop settling for less than what He wants for you and what you deserve. Okay. So let's talk about for jobs, for instance. Now, if you have been following me, you know that I am an entrepreneur, but I do not shy away from being a W-2 9 to 5 worker either. However, we have to know our value and we have to know our worth. When you work in corporate America, which I have done for many years, you will encounter higher up and bosses that basically look at you as though you're a head count, right? Or look at you as though, even with all your experience and your education, and I have a couple of degrees, I have a lot of experience, but when working in corporate America, I often felt like they were trying to put me in my place. Don't let your brain be too big. Let's shrink you down. You don't know what you're talking about. Or if I had a suggestion, like they actually asked me or something like that, I was cut off and they didn't want to hear it. So I got into this mode of, all right, let me come in, let me do my job, my 9 to 5, whatever that is, and clock in, clock out, whatever. And it got to the point where I started being unhappy because I felt like I was underappreciated, undervalued, and that at any point, if y'all felt so, y'all go ahead and replace me because I was just a head count. I was no longer a part of the team. I was no longer a valued asset to the company, right? So I felt like that on quite a few jobs that I had. And in my day, you stay on a company, you stay with a company for 5, 6 years, you're considered a tenured employee. Nowadays, it's like people only stay at a job for a year or two and then they're moving on. I was always raised, at least my grandmother told me, that you want stability. You want to stay somewhere for a long period of time. You don't want to be bouncing around and all that. I valued that. I was a very loyal employee. But at the same time, I was settling because some of it was, okay, I need a job. I have bills I have to pay. But there's nothing wrong with that mindset, but have a plan in place. Say that, okay, in 5 years, I am going to go back to school or get more certification in my field so that I can add to what I already am, whether it's your experience, your knowledge, whatever the case may be, taking an Excel class, taking whatever additional certifications because you want to, not because somebody's telling you to do it, but because you want to add more value to yourself so you can stop settling in the position that you're in and not feeling that, okay, I'm stuck and this is all I can do. I didn't have a degree when I first started in the accounting world. So a little bit of background about me is I've been doing accounting since I was in high school. I am now 48 years old, about to be 48 years old next month. And I just, it was just something that I always did. I had a class, I took a finance and business course when I was in high school, which landed me a internship with Charles Schwab doing bank reconciliations. And then from there, I just started building my resume with different jobs that were in the accounting field. I've done complete full cycle accounting, but I never had a degree for it. After my fourth child was born, he is now 18 years old. I got laid off from my job, and a lot of the accounting jobs are being outsourced to Manila and other countries because they can pay less. And I found myself in a situation where it was like, okay, now the field that I'm in is becoming scarce, which means that the competition is growing because the supply and demand is, there's not a lot of jobs, but there's a lot of people that are looking for it. So I need to add value to myself to make myself more valuable and to stand out. When they're looking at resumes, they're looking at, okay, you got experience, you got a degree, or you got experience, no degree, or you got a degree, no experience. So I was like, let me add that degree to my experience. So I went back to school and I got my degree in accounting. In the let me hold on, let me back up. When I was in school, actually, is when I ended up getting laid off from work. I decided that I needed to, I went ahead and finished my degree in accounting, but I also decided that I needed to pivot and have a fallback career. I always wanted to get into law. So what I did is I then, after I finished with my accounting degree, I then got a degree in criminal justice. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, all else fail, I can just go into criminal law and take that route, right? But still, I'm trying to not settle. I cannot stress this enough. It hurts my soul when I see people who have so much potential and so much value, but they don't see it. So they just sit in something where they're not being appreciated, where they literally are being tolerated because that job might feel that, okay, I can replace this person, but then we have to train somebody all over new. So we're just going to settle with them, and we're just going to give them a 2 or 3% raise and throw them a couple of bonuses here and there. But technically, really, they don't value you. But you work all these hours, you put in all this time for this job or this company, and you just sit in it. That's one way that we settle, right? And again, like I said, there is absolutely nothing wrong with having a 9 to 5 W-2 job or anything like that, but always be aspiring for more. If you're part-time, okay, next year I'm going to be full-time. If you've been at a particular position for a while, okay, I'm going to be shooting for either a supervisor. Some people don't want to manage other people, and that's fine. But hey, maybe you don't want to manage. Maybe if you work for a franchise or something like that, maybe you want to be the franchise owner and just have somebody else manage the employees. But be aspiring for something more. Stop settling for just the bare minimum just to get by. That's that robbing Peter to pay Paul type of mentality, right? Where we just settle for the scraps. And that's how it's always been. Another thing that we tend to settle in is our environment. I grew up in the projects. My mother didn't own a home. My grandmother didn't own a home, but my grandmother, she lived in a nice neighborhood at one point until she got sick, and then she had to come and live with us. But I grew up in the projects. And for me, I always had this dream of owning my own home. Was that dream going to be a reality? Growing up, I didn't know. It was just a dream. It was a hope, right? And I tried to do everything I could to get myself to that. But at the same time, I settled into being a renter because I was comfortable with that. And I didn't want to rock the boat. And that could be with a job, a relationship, with your living situation. Because in my mind, I was like, okay, if I buy a home, right, I'm looking at the pros and cons and weighing everything out. I lose that sense of security. If I lose my job, what's going to happen? Okay. What's going to happen with my house? What's going to happen with my children? But I had to stop letting fear be the reason that I stayed in things longer than I should have. Philippians 4:13 tells us that we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. Okay. So if you accept that his strength is your strength, there is absolutely nothing that can hold you back. Absolutely nothing that can hold you back. Absolutely. I'm going to say it again. Absolutely nothing that can hold you back. You could do all things. Okay. So when you adopt that mindset and actually believe it and take it in, you really can do all things. Now, I was the first generational college graduate in my immediate family, right? First generational homeowner in my immediate family. And that's because I told myself, I believe I can do it. Now, what do I need to do it was my next thing after I actually adopted that mindset and had that faith in my heart and my hope in God that, hey, you got my back. And as soon as God said, I got you, I'm like, all right, bet. What do I need to do to be able to attain these things? So then I went into research mode, right? So now I'm trying to figure out, all right, how do I obtain my degree? What do I need to do? Because it wasn't about, oh, I'm just going to go back to school. At the time when I went back to school, I had 4 children. I was married, about to go through a divorce, but I had my 4th child. So now I'm about to be a single parent. I'm working full time, right? Because even though like I had my job when I went back to school, but then when I decided to go back to school, I had my job, but then ended up getting laid off. I still needed to get another job. So I'm working full time. I'm a single mom. How am I going to make this happen? So I went into research. How can I get my degrees, but still have that flexibility because I have work and I have to be a mom? So I started researching online schools. At that time, being an online student, I used to hear so much negative stuff. Like there was even somebody's child. And I was like, okay, so your mama been talking about me. There was somebody's child that was like, oh, my mom said that that's not real school that you went to. And it's like, how's it not real school? I'm doing the work. I'm doing the test. And I'm going to get a degree at the end of this. But they had just came out with online learning at that time, which was 18 years ago. And it was a new thing. But it was flexible. It worked for me. And I could do my classes at night. I could do my homework. I could join classes or watch the recording when I got a chance to. So it was self-paced, but at the same time, it wasn't. I still had a syllabus that I had to follow. But I did the research to find out how can I work this into my life. When it came to buying my house, I did some research. What do I need to do? What credit score do I need to have? How much money do I need to have saved up? Because I didn't have the blueprint from my mother or my grandmother. I was the first one doing this. So it was like, okay, let me figure out how to do this. Now, what I will say is my sister-in-law, which I just call her my sister, but for context purpose, she's my sister-in-law. She's my children's aunt on their dad's side. She owned a home first. So I reached out to somebody that I knew in addition to me doing my research and talked to her about the process of buying a home and stuff like that. And then I had a cousin who also owned her home. So do your research, talk to different people who are already where you're trying to get. I cannot stress that enough as far as surrounding yourself around like-minded people, surrounding yourself around people who are where it is that you want to get so that you can be able to get that knowledge and experience. And even the do's and don'ts from off of what they went through. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So it's like, okay, let me talk to this person because they've already gone through this so they can tell me what I shouldn't do, what I should avoid, give me point me in the right direction so that I can do further research. Okay? So instead of settling, talk to somebody. Don't be embarrassed about, oh, I don't want to be judged, so I don't want to say nothing to anybody or whatever about what it is that I'm thinking or I'm planning. Forget all of that. Throw that out the window because that's going to keep you stuck too. Having that mindset that, oh, I don't want people to know that I'm going through this or whatever. At the time when I decided to buy my house 8 years ago, my credit was horrible because I wasn't worried about buying a house or anything like that. I was just getting by, had my cash or whatever and stuff. So I was a person who I messed up my credit because I didn't have anybody to tell me about the importance of credit building, credit literacy and all that stuff. So it wasn't until actually it was before I wanted to buy my house. It was when I was going out and I wanted to rent a house to whereas I actually started looking into my credit. So I started working on my credit, actually went through a process of working with somebody who worked on credit. And I started learning more about it and got educated on it, which is how I basically got into credit repair because I wanted to start helping other people who were in the same situation that I was in. But I didn't want to just clean up their credit. I wanted them to be educated and understand how credit works so that they didn't find themselves back in the same position. So once I got my credit cleaned up, then it was a matter of, okay, where do I want to buy? How much money do I need? So those are things that it's like you don't settle, just do the work. And so many people, it's not even just about fear. Some of it is about being comfortable and about being lazy. But here's the thing. You can't keep complaining about your situation if you're not going to do anything to change it. I'm going to say that again. You cannot keep complaining about your situation if you are not going to do something to change it. Do you understand that? I have, and I'm not throwing anybody under the bus or pointing anybody out, but even I myself realized that I was doing that. I'm like, I keep complaining about where I'm living and all this stuff, or complaining about my job, but it's like, I'm not doing anything to change my situation. Let me stop doing it. Let me do something to actually change my situation because I'm tired of talking about how it's going wrong. Let me figure out what I need to do for it to go right. Now, not saying that you're not going to run into hurdles and problems and issues and stuff like that because you are. You're going to run into roadblocks. But the thing that I've learned about that is there's always another route. When I'm driving, I know some people who have no sense of direction, right? But when I am driving, and I see that there is on my GPS that is showing me that there is a crash or something above. In my mind, I'm like, okay, let's go this way because that still won't get me home. So I redirect myself because sometimes it might not pop up on the GPS, but I know other ways to get where it is I'm trying to go. Okay. You have to have backup plan and then a backup plan for that backup plan because you are going to run into hurdles when you're trying to get yourself out of settling whatever it is, but don't give up. Keep going, right? Keep trying to find another way because that is nothing but the enemy. When God has something good and stored for you, the enemy will come in and try to steal what it is that he is trying to bless you with. So he will throw in roadblocks. He will throw in hurdles. He will throw in closed doors. He will throw in a bunch of no's. He will do all of that to stop you from attaining what it is that God is trying to bless you with. God doesn't want us to settle. God doesn't want us to sit in places where we are unhappy. God doesn't want us to sit in relationships that we are not happy with. He does not want us to sit in jobs where we're not being valued and appreciated. He wants greater and more for us. He wants us to be whole. He does not want us to settle being in pain or having health issues either. So if you have things that are going on with you, stop settling and saying, oh, I've been dealing with this pain for this long. It's okay. I'll be all right. Maybe it'll go away. No, go find out what you need to do to be better, to be whole, to be complete. Okay. And if you are getting information from one doctor and they're not giving you the answers that you need, get a second opinion, get a third opinion, but stop settling. We have to get out of that mindset of settling because we're comfortable or because this is how it's always been or because we're afraid. Fear will keep you somewhere longer than you should be. The only thing that you should be fearing is God. And God is not going to be having us in bad situations. We keep ourselves in bad situations because we're not trusting him, because we're not trusting the strength that he provides to us. So if you don't take anything else from this episode, take this. Stop being afraid to go after whatever it is that you want. Now, I will say this. Ask God for discernment. Pray about it so that he can give you guidance. Because he can actually order your steps so that you run into fewer roadblocks, okay? So that you have fewer no's. And honestly, don't even look at those no's as rejection. Look at it as protection. There has been so many times that I have been told no or doors have been closed. And in that instant, I was just like, I was feeling some type of way. I'm not even gonna lie. And then all of a sudden, after that, my second thought was, that's God protecting me from something that I cannot see. That's God protecting me from myself sometimes, right? Because sometimes we'll sit up there and we think we know everything. So we'll continue to do something or relationship, continue to stay in something we're not supposed to stay in. So he'll remove us or remove that person to protect us from ourselves, from continuing to run our head or beat our head up against a wall. I want my people to prosper. God wants us to prosper. Okay? I want more and bigger and better for us. But we have to believe that we first deserve it, right? Then believe that we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. We can obtain whatever it is that we're trying to obtain. If you are somebody who wants to go back to school, but you feel like, oh, I'm too old, I can't do it. Stop telling yourself that. You could do it. If you are somebody who wants to move away to another state or even another country, but you're afraid, get that fear out of there. Go visit that place. My son and my daughter-in-law, they wanted to relocate and move to Japan. And so many people were like, what, Japan, another country, blah, blah, blah. But I had to think about it. And I was like, that's an experience. When I was growing up, half of us never even left the neighborhood. We didn't know nothing about anything outside of our neighborhood. And if we had been outside the neighborhood, we didn't know anything outside of our city. And if we had been out the city, we had never been out the state. So I'm like, yeah, go ahead, but go visit first and see if that's something that you actually want to do. I'm all for it. I'm going to be supportive. So if you want to relocate and move, go do it. Just make sure you got stuff set up, right? You got a backup plan for the backup plan and then a backup plan for that backup plan, right? If you want to leave a relationship, but you're afraid of either being alone or starting over or feeling, oh, I'm too old, I got too many children, nobody's going to want me. Whatever it is, that fear that's keeping you, throw it away. Okay? It's not as scary as you keep telling yourself. And that is nothing but the enemy. He wants you to stay miserable. He wants you to stay unhappy. He wants you to stay unhealed and so forth. So stop telling yourself that I got to stay here or I might end up with something worse. You could be by yourself. I used to tell myself that too. I stayed in situations longer than I should have out of fear because I'm like, oh, actually, my ex-husband told me, ain't nobody going to want you with 4 kids. And I believed it. So I was just like, so I stayed in the marriage longer than I should have. And then I started thinking about it. I was like, why wouldn't they? Or honestly, why do I need to be with anybody else? I could just be by myself and still be happy. All I knew was I was with my high school sweetheart for 7 years, 9 years or something like that. Then my next relationship for another 7 years. And it was like, I'm used to being in long-term relationships and we lived together. So I had never lived by myself. So the fear of being alone and being by myself kept me in relationships longer than I should have. So I had to stop allowing that fear to keep me somewhere longer than I should have. And I finally, it took me a while, but I've never been happier living by myself and being by myself. Now I'm to a point where it's like, I'm not completely and totally healed. There's still some things I'm working on. I'm still in therapy. But once I'm completely and totally healed, and I feel like therapy should just be self care anyway, right? Because things come up. There's still a lot of stuff that I have to unpack. We're talking about 48 years of just different things that have happened over the course of my life, from childhood to adolescence to teenage to young adult to now, right? So you need to work through all of those things so that once God does bless me with whoever my husband's supposed to be, I'm praying that he working on himself too. So when we come together, we are two healed individuals, and then we can do the work together in our relationship versus I'm coming in with my baggage and my hurt and my trust issues. You coming in with whatever issues you've had, either with your mom or other relationships. So now we both just unhealed and taking our frustrations and stuff out on each other or treating each other wrong, not intentionally, but that's what's happening. So, with that said, really take away from this to look at your life and figure out, what things am I settling in? What is it that I actually want to do, but fear is holding me back? Write it down. Tackle one thing at a time if you have multiple things. Don't try to tackle it all at once. Say, okay, this right here, this is obtainable. All right, now let's set some short term goals in order to obtain that one particular thing that I want to attain. Okay. I thank you guys so much for tuning in, for pulling up a seat to the table. Hi, I'm Nicolette Royal, and I am the owner of NRO Company. So that is Nicolette Royal Original Company. That is what that stands for, NRO Company for short. And it is a print business. And I actually started this business. It's actually, oh my goodness, it's about to be 6 years that I started this business. I started this business with a dream. My grandmother used to teach me how to sew when I was little, and I went to a sewing class one time. My best friend had invited me to a sewing class at her, she's in the mosque, and they were having a class, and she invited me to come, and I forgot how to sew. But in that class, what were we doing? We were working on a tote bag, and I was so amazed by the hands-on and everything, but it was almost like riding a bike, that everything that I remember my grandmother taught me just came flooding back in. So my children bought me this cute little, oh gosh, I don't have it here, but it was this cute little sewing machine. I named her Tabitha. And I just started using that and was like, I'm going to start making tote bags. I'm going to sell these tote bags. And eventually I got a bigger sewing machine, a working horse sewing machine. And what happened? The pandemic happened. So my shift from making tote bags shifted to actually making face masks. And I made a lot of money during that time. And then I ended up getting a cry cut machine. And that cry cut machine allowed me to customize these face masks. I would have a lot of people, once things start opening up, those face masks started becoming party favors for different people. And then I started doing t-shirts, and most of the t-shirts that I would do would be custom orders. So I would have people saying, hey, can you, because a lot of people started their own business. So they would say, hey, can you put my business logo on this shirt or so forth. So I would do a lot of those, or I would have people coming to me and they would have parties and they wanted something special on the shirt. Or it might have been, I started doing bonnets, which actually that took me so much time because I would actually hand make the bonnets, go get the fabric, cut it out, sew it, do all that good stuff, and then put whatever the person wanted on there. But it was so time consuming that I just couldn't do it anymore. My children used to help me initially with a lot of things, but as they start getting older, they started getting busy with their own things. So I had to figure out a way to keep my print business going without burning myself out. So I end up meeting or running across this young lady's page named Bougie Barbie on Instagram. She's actually, I believe she's retiring from digital products coming up soon. But I was able to get a couple of her courses and learn how to do print on demand. And basically, what that was, I would sit there and design. So I used to go to Academy of Art College. So
designing things and arts and all that was always a thing of mine. It was never something I wanted to go into full time, but it was just a gift that I had. So I started designing different things using Canva. And then through her, she introduced me to Printify. So I would then take my designs, put them on shirts, hoodies, bags, or whatever. And then I created an Etsy store. So all of my products are on Etsy. I will have my Etsy shop link below, and you can purchase whatever you want to purchase from my Etsy shop. Or if you're interested in starting your own print on demand business, I do have an ebook, and I will list my Stan Store link at the bottom so that you can be able to start your own print on demand business. It's very easy to do. And if you're not that creative with designs, there's all this AI technology out there. If you have an idea in your head and you just don't know how to actually put it into a design, you can tell like AI and it'll do it for you. So I am Nicolette Royal, owner of NRO Company. You can reach me at 702-969-3605. You can text the word print and I'll send you the link, or you can go to my Etsy store. You can also follow me on Instagram at NRO Company. So thank you guys.
You guys, make sure that you are not subscribed to my channel, that you go ahead and subscribe. You like this, go ahead and comment, share it with somebody else. Make sure you guys tune in for 2026 because it is going to be a year of healing and growth. Okay. All right, you guys, thank you so much. Again, if you are somebody who is interested in starting your own podcast, make sure you click the links below. I'm going to share what I use to edit and also who hosts my podcast, which is Podbean. And you guys, happy holidays to you guys and blessings to you guys.